Hello and good evening and welcome everyone, boys and girls. As you know, I'm Dan Winter and this is fractalu.com, Dan Winter of fractalfield.com. And we have an exciting program tonight. We have some very magic ladies, actually. It's a good thing. They're amazing, actually. It's really cool. I'm going to do an intro, but first, Tufan, did we have some announcements of Fractal U? We have the announcement of next week, and there's a bit of an announcement of the status of piezofire.com. The piezofire launch last week was so successful that were sold out. Sorry, they're gone. However, in about 2 to 3 weeks, Tufan, with his magic dedication, is going to have more gizmos. Meantime, people like Dan Mack are receiving their gadgets and the files promised by Patrick to Audio Drive, and all that stuff is happening fun and fast and good. So check out piezofire.com. But the basic news is it's a few weeks in the queue now because there's so many people wanted to play, and that's fun. Tufan, any other announcements? Yes?
Sure. So we started shipping out the piezo fires, and this week on Monday and Tuesday, we will be finalizing all the shipments with the piezo fire. And we also had a small delay with the shipping of plank tuners, and we just received the new production, new batch of plank tuners, and those will be shipped out on Tuesday next week. So sorry for that. And so the next batch of piezo fires will be ready in about 3 weeks. So if anybody wants to pre-order, they can go to Dan Winter's website at piezofire.com. And next week, we will be talking with Dan Winter about a new history of Thoth Hermes Viracocha, including a personal bliss encounter with indigenous tribal shaman, literally a path through death, the real skill of ensoulment. So
that's a fun thing. Thank you, Tufan. I think Tufan's eyes are looking even more blue than usual tonight, if you ask me. And that's a good thing too.
Yeah,
there's
he
one
definitely
other
has a glow.
Yes, Tufan has a glow. I think you're right. One other little announcement is that, as Tufan has mentioned, that we're planning a fun party. I mean, our 4th international conference here in South France with our partners here, Australia, but in South France in September. And we have now 3 options, which are kind of gorgeous, lined up for venue, and we hope to finalize this week. Tufan, we found out that the mayor of a local village has a gorgeous place where the cost per person would be something on the order of half. We had that beautiful hotel on the coast, but it would be like $1,000 a person and we were trying to make it more available to more people. So we're cooking on a really fun local option, and we hope to have more news. So hopefully in the first couple of weeks of September, we're having a major party to announce. You might block it off, but we should know very soon. So that's cooking beautifully.
Great news. Great news. We are trying to create a budget-friendly program for you guys.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dan.
That's exactly right. And that's what's cooking. So I promise more news shortly. And now my task, which is a fun task, is to introduce 2 magic ladies. Magic lady number 1 is Hannah Spence, who courageously took the Theraphi to the last international conference, GSIC, with Donnie Henderson and Elena Denon up in Orlando, I believe, and had incredible adventures with delivering the Theraphi experience to so many magic people. And then Hannah came over here to Europe and just did incredible dedication to be the ambassador for everything. It was amazing. I've never seen such dedication and bravery and courage, and it was totally inspiring. Anywho, so Hannah has been incredibly brave in being a partner. And about her best friend, or as we understand, wonderful, another absolutely magic lady, Elasa, who also is a Theraphi operator and doing a healing, who just from what we conversed before, is doing incredible work with kids, very intuitive, very spiritual, very sensitive work with encouraging kids and young people with their spiritual evolution from seeing without their eyes and magic artwork. And, that is our dream. Absolutely. is to create the magic experiences for young people. And by the way, we met some magic young people here this week too. I want to tell you about. But anywho, so I'm very pleased and grateful that Elasa and Hanna have prepared a program for us tonight about Theraphi, about healing, about working with kids, and many other cool things. Very intuitive, very wonderful feminine energy. And I think this is great. And so without further ado, Elasa and Hanna. Move pin. Here we go. Go ahead. Elasa, when you want me to share your slides, just let me know.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I just am so grateful to be here with Hannah Spence, and she is one of my beyond time best friends. I have to just share a short how I was introduced to Hannah, which was not too long ago. I've really gone beyond time when you step into presence and you step into love, which is what we're going to talk about today. Maybe within a year, I was guided to visit her on a spaceship, lucid dreaming. And so I have a very special couch that when I get guided by spirit in the middle of the night to go sit on the couch, it is a spaceship. It's the mothership. And so when I opened my eyes, my inner eye in the spaceship on the magic couch, there was Hannah. And so Hannah and I didn't know each other yet, but were we were traveling together beyond time and working together for humanity. And when we finally actually met at a juicery, lights went off. What would you say, Hannah, about that you remember?
Yeah, 100%. Elasa was sitting in the corner behind her laptop, but I was aware of her the whole time, and the energy was absolutely beautiful. We were all talking to each other in that juice shop, and she was the last person, and we were just like, "Hi, oh my gosh, who are you?" And just hearing of Elasa's accomplishments, just and being basically the same age, and just hearing everything that she had been doing, and I was saying that's what I want to do, have a healing sanctuary and lead retreats and whatnot. But it's been just being able to grow together and finding the Theraphi technology and finding Dan's work and going into it together, and then doing what I call translating. Elasa will speak, and then I will sort of say, okay, now pause, and then this is how Dan would say it. So almost like they're speaking two different languages, and then I'm an interpreter, translator, because I've learned how both can speak, because we really are merging science and spirituality with this amazing plank fire formula that Dan discovered. It's a huge gift for all humanity. I'm so humbled to be a part of it. But yeah, I think it's been almost a year now, just coming up on a year that we met. It's hard to believe because so much has shifted for good with just all this learning that we've done together of how these technologies work and how to find the best solutions for people to heal. But yeah, but really looking forward to this. Yeah.
And
yeah.
while Hannah was in Europe here, she started seriously on the project of creating a book for young people to make these ideas available with visuals for young people. And that's also Elasa's field, and that's how we plan tonight. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I guess we could go ahead and pop up that slideshow and we'll continue journeying.
Okay, let's dig up the slideshow. Good, here we go. So let me see if you see this now. Akashic records used with Theraphi. Are we seeing that?
Yes,
okay.
That's it. Okay, so I'm going to keep on going with kind of her story, sharing that you can go to the next slide, Dan, that, like we've shared, Hannah and I's introductory Beyond Time really is about all of us here tonight, or wherever you are in time, that is. We're here to actually travel together on a big project on today's call. So I'm excited to share how I've been working with people like you all. Let's go to the next slide. And sharing Akashic records, basically finding who, what, when, where, and why. Why are we showing up here together? Did you want to say something, Dan?
Oh, that's good. Well, so we do have records that the Theraphi plasma experience is clinically helpful in inducing like hypnosis and deep trance for therapy, but it also implies creating this connection in this world. So it's wonderful that you're looking at that.
Yeah. So for the past 30 years, I've been guided to do this Akashic work. I had no idea what it was when I was first introduced in meditation. I was doing cranial sacral therapy on children who basically every doctor who couldn't figure things out would send them to me. And I was working magic at a level with doing cranial with these children, and they were bouncing right back and finding their norm. And I'd like to call them the bright light children who were sent to me. And so when I started doing the cranial with the children, I was taught by Upledger to just talk to the body. And then that stopped answering me and the soul started to speak. And so that led this journey of past 30 years of doing these ascension retreats and Akashic deep dives as the circles arrive, as here we are today, a circle so far of a 39, a 12. And, you know, why do we come together? And so we are doing research, finding basically what tools are going to assist us for the ensoulment, for the lifting up into the true longitudinal ray of the new world, of new humanity, of new earth, whatever we want to call it. And 3 years ago, or whenever COVID began, I was told to shut down the center. The building you see right there in the white was the center we were using for 7 years. And I was told to go kind of underground, take the signs down and pull everything in, and still lead retreats once a month, ascension retreats, but not have it be really, like a sign outside. And then that really stopped altogether because you couldn't even have a place like that, a wellness center. So anyways, when we went underground yeah, Dan.
It's just wonderful that you work directly with Upledger. I've been teaching his work for like 20 years, and it's specifically Upledger's documentation of the low frequency harmonics of the spine liquid pump. Remember, if your spine liquid is pumping, it's clinically impossible to be depressed. And that then actually what launched me into the equation, plankfire.com, when we realized that the low frequency harmonics of the spine liquid sacrocranial is actually directly then what we feed Theraphi in the physics of bliss. So that Upledger work fits perfectly. I love that connection.
Right. So when I went underground and followed guidance from higher consciousness on what to be dealing with for humanity, there was a lot of four corner pull-ups, I call them, documents and papers that were binding on humanity. And so we did a lot of different processes. We'll see how it weaves in for today's talk, but I'm not going to start there. And around a year ago, right when I met Hanna, I was guided to, okay, now we want you to publish the books that you would have published. Now that you have all this time off, go ahead and learn how to self-publish. So I went ahead and published the 7 quantum soul healing books that I had been sitting on for a while. And that led into publishing a total of 130 something books now that are journals, on gardens, on gratitude, on heart, any kind of journal that facilitates gratitude and acts of kindness, things like that. That then led me into Spirit saying, now take it to the schools and teach the children how to do heart and mind coherence, gratitude work, and journaling. And so I was like, okay, here we go. So I went in and found a school. Thank you, Dan. I went ahead and found a school to go ahead and share this idea of me teaching the children how to publish their own gratitude journal. And this first school that I approached was a private school. It's called Acton Academy. And they went ahead and received it fully and hired me for the last year to keep going, teaching them everything I can about gardening, about sacred geometry, etc. And that leads us into the work that I hope to be doing with them with the Flame in Mind and the Muse 2 app, or headset, I should say. So this has been just a total amazing past couple of years that leads me to now on the slide where you see where we've reopened the existing location before COVID. And it was called Soul Terra then, but now it's called R3 Miracles. And the R3 is restore, rejuvenate, and realize. And we're back at it doing soul school and gathering people to go ahead and do the inner deep dive research on what are we being asked to bring forward for humanity right now. And when we reopened, I heard the higher consciousness tell me, find all the technologies that will assist humanity at this time, the name that came to mind was Nikola Tesla. What would Nikola Tesla have been bringing to you all right now? And so I went on a hunt, and Theraphi was probably the fourth tool I found. I found the EE system. I found tensor field rings. I found tachyon. And basically, I started noticing this theme and of, basically accessing this scalar field, which I now understand is to be the longitudinal array, the EMF. And I was, okay, let's weave this in. Well, we found Dan and we got the Theraphi, as you see in the middle there. That is our beautiful Theraphi setup. And I found that in order to get people to really jump and have some miracles happen, we had to really make sure we wove back in the Akashic records. So we probably can go to the next slide, Dan.
Okay, one moment. See if
We might be going through some children's slide, which is perfect. We can kind of there's the Living Love Light project, getting as many books like new Living Love Light books that bring about light and bliss to the world. The journals are really important for that, because truly the best book that anybody is ever going to write is a journal that's focused on what they want. And you see that middle picture right there, that's we're working on dielectric clothing. I'm wearing one of the pieces right now. You see the Flame and Mind app on the left. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that, but let's go to the next slide.
I did switch it. Do you see 130 books? Oh, I think we're losing it, Elasa.
I'm here. There we go.
Go ahead. Yeah, a little slow. Go ahead.
There's one of the children's books that were published. So the project was for the children to draw a picture of something they're grateful for. And the title of their journal would be, I am grateful for blankety blank. This one was, I am grateful for rainbows and unicorns. And on the back of each of their journals that they published with me, they wrote their wish for the world, the way they want to see the world to be. So it was very powerful for these children to dial into, their vision of our future world. You can go to the next slide.
Okay, heart and mind coherence.
So these next three slides you can go ahead through. These are just some images of the children that I work with. They're doing sacred geometry with grapes right there.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Making octahedrons that day, and they love it. They so love it. And all these children meditate with me every week that I come, and they do gratitude hand to heart, and think about three things they're grateful for: something small, something big, and something wish fulfilled. So they're always getting ahead of it, which is our goal here tonight or today, is to get ahead of things and start, seeing things as we want them to be, speaking things as we want them to be. And then next slide.
Beautiful kids, wonderful.
Okay, so let's begin. And this next slide, we always want to start with the clear intention. Whether we're doing tonight is a session, I consider this a session right now. Whenever we're gathered, two or more gathered, we have an opportunity to make profound change. And so if you could just, either in the chat, write an intention that you have, something, it could be in a form of a question, or an intention of what are you wanting to know about. We're going to be looking at the Akash, meaning who, what, when, where, why. And we're looking at the Akash so that we can actualize whatever your intention is at the highest and best, whether it's a clear intention of a statement, or if it's a question that you're going to find the understanding you need so that you can grow. And once we understand things, we truly do become centripetal and negentropic, and our energy, our soul essence really does come home. So if you could, on the chat or on a piece of paper, have an intention for today's call. And we'll go to the slide.
Become a shareable wave. Group intention, access bliss from heart to heart to heart. Yeah, Elasa, we lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm here. Good. And I would hope that a group intention is for us to access bliss from heart to heart to heart. That would be my goal for us tonight, today, in this now moment, that we do access the longitudinal ray and bring about a wave of bliss through the field, which I already can feel. And to do that, let's put our hands to our thymus gland, palm over palm, and just take 3 deep breaths in. You can long the second breath to 5 minutes, 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out.
Right, the Mayer wave.
And the third Mayer wave, inhale 5 in and 5 out. And smile. Good. And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So in that now moment of just breathing together with group intention of accessing bliss, we have already done it. Now we're just going to get a little bit deeper though, because we want to make sure we really dig things out to the root. So when we're looking at the Akash, we're looking to find the root, find the conception point. Where did this begin? So if you had an intention of why am I still carrying around this breathing issue that maybe you've had it for a few months.
Elasa?
For us, through us, by us. Can you hear me good, Dan?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. We heard for us, through us, and by us.
Okay, let's just stabilize the field. Good. And are we stabilized? Yes. Okay. So we're gathering understanding and finding our hand in our creations. We're finding our hand in why we maybe have a breathing issue. I see you, Dan. Let's go to the next slide. So the power, yeah.
Go ahead.
The power of doing Akashic record research on self prior to doing the Theraphi, and I want to add in during your session with the Theraphi, with the the plasma balls that are just coming out, the piezo fire, the quantify, you laying on a ley line, on magnetic line, you working with the song lines, the dragon lines, you just being exactly where you be. We want to encourage you to do this type of work of investigation. So Akashic records that are needing to be integrated for new alignment to occur with greater ease are essentially created when charge did not nest or collapse. Instead, it fractured out and fractaled out that fracture of misunderstanding. And so you see this little meme that I made right here. It's got the golden mean ratio, and it's got a little baby in the center. And then it fractals out some kind of misunderstanding to the little girl. And then there, let's say that's me, the lady, and that's me fractaled out. And so I need to go back to that conception point at the beginning of Planck, where I fractaled out something. So I hope that makes sense. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, the simple meaning is just that every time you really do get really still in the center, which means relaxed and still and centered, implosive breath, the compression there connects you with the array. And that fits so many spiritual narratives. It's a beautiful thing.
And so this is just the definition of Akash, ether, space, sky, a wave. And we'll go to the next slide. And essentially what the Akashic records are is all of past, present, future dimension. All records are apparently being held in this Akashic field, in this ether. And so, like Dan said, when we get still, we can access through our intuition any type of Akashic record, any reason of why something is happening right now. Where did this fractal out from? And so let's go to the next slide.
How are Akashic records formed You know, every time you have an intense emotion or bliss or sadness, it creates an eddy in that array. And so that's stored. It's like holographic. So going back to access the peak experience moments, the highs and the lows are stored in the array emotionally, and accessing that array is finding the compression to hook up the radio.
Thank you, Dan. Keep weaving in like that. Let's go to the next slide. You answered it perfectly.
Okay.
So what we're typically finding, like Dan said, is the highs and the lows. And so don't forget that. Don't always think you're looking for some trauma or drama. You know, sometimes you really are looking to access those highest potential moments and re-hook into that, right? Ride that wave again. And so, but I will have on this slide, it says that, you know, sometimes you are finding these dense packs of information that are trauma related, dark, misunderstood moments, blaming out there, separate consciousness, unconscious, conscious actions, memories, beliefs, etc. So we're lifting up the anchors that you can, so that you can understand them and then free up that energy where you had made choices typically based off fear. And so most of this, I could say many lifetimes, I've made many choices off fear. I'm sure even today, if you're looking at the first three energy centers of survival, power struggles, and what I'm going to consume, if I'm doing it from a fear-based, action point, then sometimes those get extra charge in them from me doing the action from fear. So those are sometimes some of the things we're going ahead and like literally pulling up the anchors or pulling up the roots when we're doing this work. I also put on here that some of the things that we're finding in the Akash that really need to be lifted are things that are in a spine, in a book, in a binding, in a document, four corners, in a map, in a structure. I had to actually, one dream about a week ago is I was lucid, and I'm a lucid dreamer most of my life, and I dream the future most of my life. And I was having to literally break myself out of a statue.
Oh.
And so sometimes you might find that you were bound in a statue because you were worshipped. And so because I was worshipped in that statue in the lucidity of that dream about a week ago, I had to break it and break it open, which then overlaid something to going on with Hannah, for her to understand why things had to be broken in front of her. And again, we're all here for each other. We're walking each other home. So a lot of our overlays will literally be on top of each other. And when we find each other, we are coming home to the one. And I respect and honor all of you who are on here tonight and today in this now moment, because I do know this is a divine appointment for us to walk each other's home into an ascension. So from a descension and an ascension, we then are coming into this ascended moment in time, back into the heart of like what I see it almost like a black hole, a galactic center.
Mhm.
I'll go to the next slide. Yeah, go ahead.
That
Please.
dream lucidity is such a gift. I might be a little bit envious, actually, but go ahead.
Well, we usually jump each other, Dan. I
Yeah.
will have to say that I was on the Theraphi 48 hours ago, and the Quantify arrived behind me. And I had a group here, and I was on the Theraphi, and consciousness said, okay, go ahead and occupy all the Theraphi centers. Go ahead and occupy the longitudinal ray right now. Well, I did. And I've been down and out for 48 hours digesting hundreds of past lives for many people. It was quite the experience the last 48 hours. So I'm glad to be here with you all. I've definitely come out of a whole nother level through that request from consciousness. So I'll keep going here.
Yeah, when the plasma devices are on simultaneously, it's like helpful for collective lucid dreaming. But then during the collective lucid dreaming, we need someone to steer, and that's a tricky job. So I
So
think
let me bring that up. So when I first got the we first got the Theraphi. It's actually my mother and I, Kay, who reopened Our Three Miracles, and
oh
we
yes,
got it. Yeah, we got it 3 months ago, I would say. Again, I'm not good with time at this point, but and I had a group come. Usually, a council of 12 arrives, and so I had about 12 people cycling through the Theraphi, and I finally got on to be my turn. And as I did, my phone weather went off, like a weather app, and it said it said all up the coast of Florida, tornadoes have just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I usually wouldn't have looked at my phone, but Spirit told me, look at the phone. And I'm like, oh goodness. And so I heard Dan, I heard you, saying some kind of statement along the lines of the tornado. So that night I go to sleep and I'm lucid. And around 4 a.m., my higher consciousness has a very booming voice, tells me to get up and go steer the tornado. And it said, go to where you meditate at Honeymoon Island. So sure enough, that a tornado of that all those tornadoes that were going up the coast had come, and I was literally watched the aftermath of it. So I don't know if I did such a good job, but it went through my childhood home on Clearwater Beach, up so it is a real deal, everybody, that when you start to really reoccupy the longitudinal ray, if
Yeah.
there's things that need to come up, like the shaman, how you put it, to eat the kahucha, I think you call it, to eat
Yep.
the anger.
Yep.
It's like I was asked to steer and gather anything out of that line that needed to be lifted up. And so, Dan, do you want to say something on that? It looks like you're about to say something.
So the idea is that, I remember when we first put Theraphi in South Africa, Claire, who passed actually, but it was not just the presence of the Theraphi, but it was also the presence of a psychoactive lady, actually, in that case, because they had all kinds of storms and rain in South Africa, the first Theraphi. But it isn't just the plasma, it's someone to steer. And, it is whoever has the most empathy to feel. Like when you feel the pain of the tornado, it means you became the centripetal moment in that array. And obviously a shareable intention is what starts that process. So it's lovely that you've had that personal experience, Elasa. Cheers. I'm cheering from here. Go ahead, please.
Well, we did a activation. I saw that you did a rain ceremony for France, and we did actually do something for that in tandem. So did it rain?
We had a little bit. We're expecting more.
Okay, well, we'll do it again.
Please. Okay. Yes.
That's one of my intentions, is so that we can have a real experience. Okay, so coming back to these slides. So two important questions we want to ask when we're looking for something at that conception point of, our intention for today or anytime when we're working on ourselves is, when did this fractal out? Who are the cast of characters still in front of you playing out the energies, wanting to go from entropy to understanding, from entropy to neg entropy, from chaos to order? So you may find that the win could be this lifetime. I like to start with this lifetime. I'll ask consciousness, is it 0 to 10 years old? No. Is it another lifetime? Yes. And we're going to go over how to get quick yeses and nos in a moment here. But I want to find out, when did this begin? The other one is, who's the cast of characters, is another important one. Meaning, if you have, I'm going to use the same example. If you have something going on with your breathing, and the people around you right in front of you usually have something connected. Let's say it's your family. But we're going to want you to ask good questions to your consciousness to find out who's connected. Sometimes there's somebody connected, sometimes there's not. In this example right here, you see a little child and his father kind of like kind of sad or angry, and the little boy's sad. And then you have the older adult who's still kind of carrying that same repeat pattern with the same role of authority or father figure. And so when you find out these like two most important ones, I think, to be when and who, whoa, watch shifts. And let's go to the next slide.
And it's so true that a stress moment usually leads to you stop breathing, which means the memory doesn't pass through the slip knot.
Yes, that is such a good point. So this is just a slide of kind of imagery of multiple timelines when we're accessing higher potential. So, if we find that when we're looking at that record of, or that conception point where there was fear-based movements or a lower timeline, what we're doing is we're moving from time where fear is based, and we're moving up into presence, into now, into love, into the seemingly upper timeline or upper room, a higher new now. So just for this moment, because we've already had, yeah?
Or just to say that if time is simply relative spin rate, that at the center of that compression, all spins converge, which means all rotations are connected. So that's when they say it's timeless. It's just because connectivity is perfected.
Yes, that is so important, everybody. I want you to really get that. And I got another slide about that. So in this now moment, let's just practice one more of those breaths. I want you to breathe 5 seconds, inhale.
And 5 seconds to breathe out. I think we may have lost Elasa for a minute. Elasa?
We just synced with the mayor wave in the meantime.
Yeah, that was the mayor wave. Yeah, I think actually Elasa, well, you know, while we wait for Elasa to sign back in, Hanna, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. It's Elasa.
I missed
I thought
that.
I heard. There you are.
Elasa?
Go ahead. Yeah. Elasa.
Are you there?
Yes, go ahead. Go. We lost you for a minute. Oh dear. Elasa has a connectivity
Hello?
problem. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, there, we saw you. Yes, okay. Go ahead, Elasa.
Hi.
We lost you for a minute.
Can you hear us, Elasa?
We can see you, Elasa. Elasa?
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
Okay. You could just go to the next slide.
Okay. We thought we might have lost you.
We did, and this has been the last 48 hours. Okay. Once you see how things have been created, you can heal the understanding, and you can forgive the cast of characters playing stories of fractured and separation. When you choose understanding of the game, of wholeness, of truth, authenticity, respect, and unification, we move into bliss, order, compression, and natural implosion of the soul's light. And even expanding as the one consciousness via a longitudinal array. Go to the next slide.
Moment. 1 second. See if I can do that. There.
So we're seeing that. I guess we're getting a lag. Let's see if we can somehow clear the lag.
We have, how is all of self showing you what wants occurring?
Yeah, okay, so we want to know that, we want to realize that everything that's happening in front of us, we're resonant to. We're a resonant match. Our energy is matching it. So you can go to the next slide.
I love that said, remembering that all is a hand holding to a compression of memories back to Planck love. I love your poetry, actually.
Okay, well, I'll keep going on that one. When we start to think that like attracts like, but really it will feel like opposites are attracting. But it's because deep down you have some core resonant match to the energies in front of you. And that's why we're doing this Akashic work. Because truly, again, all is self, all is happening to us, through us, by us, for us. And so our reality is being being created by our very own projector of the pineal. All that is needing to be understood is usually right in front of you and is usually producing some sort of trigger or charge. That is your gift for understanding. And then you can call your essence home and truly come to ensoulment. And so we'll go to the next slide. So we're awakening from time and cycles of repeat, density, and separation to now presence and becoming super concentrated light as you do this process. So it's like you're the planets on the outside of that sun, and or not you, but these aspects of you that are kind of stuck in time. They're stuck in these repeat patterns. And so as you step back into the center and be the sun, step back in and realize all is self, you literally are going to step out of time. Let's go to the next slide. So consciousness and what we are calling Akashic records are created from finite Planck points of thought, feeling, and coordinates, and infinitely phi spiral out consciousness light blueprints into a field of space. And so we are here blueprinting and then creating that wave of emotion that literally charges up that blueprint to make it happen. And there's an infinite amount of blueprints available. It's depending on where you're tapping in and what you're resonating to, what you're vibrating and connecting into, whether you're going at it in a transverse kind of immature way, or you're literally tapping in and ensouling into the longitudinal array and rising to the occasion. We are at the occasion of the new. Let's go to the next one.
And gradually it becomes centripetal in a larger and larger array.
Yes. Each now moment is being created from a sum total of our thoughts, words, visions, beliefs, memories, and feelings. And that then expands infinitely, creating a ripple in the field of potential. Additional reality to be cycled around and then fully processed in another cycle of what we call time. So we can get off on a tangent and kind of, come out of presence, let's say, and start thinking about the future or worrying about the past or thinking about the past. But we've got to come back to middle, back to the presence, back to the now. Otherwise, we're just kind of still coming back into that cycling movement. Let's go to the next slide. So did I get that right? Time is only relative rotation spin rate.
Correct. And where all spins converge is at the center point of compression at the center. That's why they say there's either no time or all time. It just means the spins are connected.
Yes, exactly. Next slide.
Moment.
And so you see here, this is the way I used to draw a lot in class, is you'd have this X and Y. And you'd have X being time and Y being frequency or hertz or aspect of self. And as we step into the middle of this X and Y and we come in presence, we are in the now. And like I said, if you're out thinking about a higher future potential reality, you're up in that top right quadrant. Now, if you think about the lower frequency of the past, let's say, then you're in that lower left quadrant. And so what's happening is we're learning that as we adjust our frequency and we become more present, we can step into higher potential timelines. We can access the Akashic records and go ahead and recreate time. There's even, new science research showing that we really do change the trajectory of time when we do these Akashic records. And let's go ahead and just jump to the next slide. So I want to get into some practices.
That's why they say that if you had pain when you were a child, you can actually go back there and heal that pain of the actual child in the past if you feel it intensively, because the connection between those spins becomes embedded.
Yes, exactly. This was a fun slide. I just was saying to a friend that it looks like you have what is itis. Maybe you should shift to what I am creating now itis. So it's important that we start to really find ourselves and where we're focused, because if we're really thinking about, what's right in front of you, it's essentially a shadow of the past. And this is what I was saying earlier. You have to kind of get ahead of things and start to program what into the highest potential reality, what you want to be. Because in this field, we're really given this perfected biofeedback system that shows us what we're still resonant with. So if you're having an amazing life, kudos. If you get a hiccup here and there that you find that you got charged up, it's trauma, then right then and there, that's your opportunity to find what is literally being biofeedbacked and shown to you of some old conception point that is literally cycling itself out, repeating it to have you heal it today, right now. So essentially the stories we are still telling, or we're asking, what are the stories you're still telling? This is where the new stories we want to start telling ourselves are key, so that we birth a new world. We will need to be very mindful of what we say, think, feel, and do. We are being asked to notice when there is a charge from an event, and with hand to heart and neutral eyes, come to an understanding for it to neutralize and allow for neg entropy, so that the reclaimed light can be made new now. And so this is an easy technique that we do a lot in the classes, is hand to heart. We call it the easy button, where we can go ahead and neutralize. We can come to presence, come to now, and see it with neutral eyes. Like, okay, if all is self and what I'm experiencing right now is truly something from maybe Akashic characters when I was 7 years old, and I'm just kind of replaying this out. Once I can understand that, I can literally neutralize it, have neutral eyes to see it for what it is. And when I take a deep breath or do the Merwave breath into my heart, it literally calls back all the essence home. Because your light, your photonic light, your essence is conscious. It's waiting for you to remember and to understand. Once you understand, those light particles have to come back to middle. And let's go ahead.
Well, Professor Ralph Otterpole is asking, is there a collective blockage for not letting us blueprint a great future? So few people can go there at all. Dr. Ralph was talking about the fact that when he got to a certain place, he found, like, for example, in war, there were so many people had died in one place and the ghosts had not moved on. So that can be a collective blockage. Interesting example.
Yes, we definitely have been digesting collective blockage the last 48 hours. I've seen so many scenes, a lot at the Chalice Wells. Yes. So yes to that question, and it can be many layers.
Yeah.
And so let's keep going, because I'm hoping that we can use that as an example.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to speak life. We want to speak light. We want to say and feel what you want and be infinitely creating new now moments. It's really important, everybody, to start really paying attention to what we're thinking, speaking, and saying. And, I have people coming around me, obviously in a therapy type of setting, and telling, their woes or pulling up an Akashic record. But we never leave the session without upgrading it, without healing it, forgiving it, having compassion.
Nice.
So, if you're around me enough, you'll hear me say something. And if it's not for the highest good, I clear, cancel, and delete it immediately, because I really do have a strong understanding that literally what I just said just fractaled out. So I want to instantly call it home and reset it to a new now. And let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
So plasma light soul essence is conscious, like I was just saying. When you understand why or how you actually have a hand in creating something needing healing, alignment, patterns, etc., that understanding allows for the light to come back centripetal and be order an additional soul essence home. This is when this will strengthen the soul field and allow for occupying of larger arrays longitudinally. Become the soul and into the field and the planes of existence at large, i.e., monadic presence, oversoul presence. You literally start having a higher presence and a larger presence, that I have to be careful of what I do with my hands now. If I push up against something or touch the earth in certain ways, I can instantly notice the effects of how much energy I'm moving through the field. So this is a whole nother topic that I'd like to talk more extensively on, but let's keep going. So when you're working with your consciousness, we want you to realize that we want you to actually address your consciousness. And this is important because when you're getting on the ancestral lines, if you just put out a statement like, I want to know why I have this breathing disorder, well, you might hear 5 different answers. So we want you to actually get on the telephone line and say, my consciousness. I use my consciousness with everybody because it seems like the good global, or excuse me, the umbrella term that will hold all the additional aspects of self underneath it. Now, if you don't get a yes to your consciousness, meaning when we're talking to consciousness, you have nothing happen, then you want to actually dial in deeper. Is it your higher self that wants to talk, your inner child? Believe it or not, when I'm talking to consciousness or clients are talking, if they don't say wounded child, sometimes it's different than the inner child. So when you start getting good at literally getting on the right telephone line with what aspect of your consciousness wants to speak to you, it has all the answers and it's just been waiting for you to ask. And so let's go to the next slide.
I love that image. I think it's very useful.
So we're learning also to stabilize our energy centers. We're becoming more mature at each energy center. About 20 years ago, Spirit wanted me to stop using chakra and start moving into energy center and to come out of that program, let's say, and to start seeing that each of the energy centers really were like starlights. They were star points. And as they stabilized, they would be illuminated and people started looking like walking constellations to me. And so let's go to the next slide.
I like that about the term chakras evolves into an understanding of light centers. Very nice.
And this is just an image I grabbed from a book, one of my books. It says, becoming super conscious, super concentrating your soul light. So you might find that as, you keep evolving your energy centers, you no longer get triggered around, inner child stuff. You no longer are being power struggled around your ego or other people's egos. You find that the subtle field, the aura, and the subtle bodies begin to grow and also mature. So when I first started doing this work, like I said, with the children in cranial sacral, I could talk to the body easily. And then that stopped and the soul wanted to talk. Well, that led to me leading these ascension retreats. And throughout time, different aspects of consciousness started to dominate the groups where then it became higher self wanted to talk. Then it was the oversoul. Then it was the monad. Then it was source. Then it was the unknowable, and so on. And so as we were growing as groups working together, so was this aspect of self. So this image itself is just showing you that each of your energy centers, as they stabilize, also has a connection to the subtle body. So that root energy center has a connection to the etheric subtle body, that first subtle body. And then it goes into the emotional, the mental, the astral, and so on. And so let's just go to the next slide. Your aura and versions of self grow as you awaken to this game of life, love life. This is just a reminder too that you might find that you're doing this work on yourself and maybe you had father issues and then all of a sudden you've been doing this work for 5 years and the father issues come back and you're like, I already dealt with all this father stuff. Well, you have grown in the array, so you now are occupying a larger package of your aura, and so you actually may be addressing the father issues for the oversoul or for the higher groups that you're working with or for. So just remember and have compassion for yourself if you start to find that you're kind of cycling around a topic you felt that you had completely dealt with. You're working for humanity. Remember, we walk each other home on this experience. Let's go to the next slide. And that's pretty much what I just said. You can keep going.
Phase shift inhabit the larger array.
So the physics of the soul, the rainbow light body, as Dan likes to say, the Ba from the Ka, is when the soul can rise up the Kundalini, up the spine in golden mean ratios, Schumann and the Caduceus, and come to plonk at the crown to phase shift L phase conjugate pump wave, which is the soul's longitudinal coherent aura. And so maybe I feel like there's a little bit of that last two that I would wanted to reword. Can you say that for us, Dan?
Well, that at the crown, the phase shift, a phase conjugate pump wave visualize the caduceus, and that's implosion. That creates that still point at the center, which is very connective, and that embeds in the longitudinal array. I just keep remembering when we first showed HeartMath Institute how to spectrum analyze EKG. When we put the electrode at the crown chakra, very top, we repeatedly got 10,000 hertz in the EKG power spectra. Normally, the EKG harmonics just go up to 20 to 40, but at the crown, the 10,000 petals lotus, literally,
Yes.
the harmonics were like unpacking in a giant lotus flower. It was amazing. It was really, we measured it.
That's powerful. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so here's something really important I wanted to get with everybody. So your aura, essentially 6 feet, okay? From midline, 3 feet to the left, 3 feet to the right, okay? When we're looking at the aura and we're looking at finding anything in the Akash that we want to adjust, I want you to be aware of your aura. I want you to be aware how these plasma packets are being stored at those moments of charge, at those moments of conception point. And so if you see here on this image, we have now being the midline. That's me right now. That's you right now. Over to the left is your conception point of this lifetime. All the way around the aura at 3 feet is that outer edge of the whole circle there, oval. That is your conception. So we could kind of say conception, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, out of utero, fourth trimester. So if you find that, and in a minute, I'm going to have you test this. If you find that you're pulled way out into the outer edge of your aura, you're going to ask your consciousness, is it at the outer edge of my aura? Is it when I was conceived? And you should get a yes or a no. If not, we're going to work on that with another tool in a minute. But let's say you had something that was like midway on the purple line. And let's say at 1.5 feet, midway, and you're, let's say, 40 years old now. Well, midway would be when you're 20 years old. So from now to the outer edge, if you're a 40-year-old at your conception, would be all the way either to the left or to the right would be your birth. And then if you had something like a plasma packet of energy that wanted to be digested and fully understood, and it was about, like I said, 1.5 feet from midline, that would be half that 40-year-old's age at 20. So this is just a very powerful realization that you can have. Let's go to the next slide to add another layer to this. The other layer is that if it's up at your head, you're finding your awareness pulls you, that the left side of the brain is either father dominant or father influenced or masculine, and the right side of the brain is feminine or mother influenced. Then at the corpus callosum, it crosses, and at the right side of the body is father or masculine influenced, and left side would be mother or feminine influenced. So let's use that example of a 40-year-old who found something, let's say on the left side of her body, around 20 years old, 1.5 feet off the body, off midline. When she was 20, and let's say it's coming out from her heart center, like it's literally, if she drew a line straight out, a horizontal line out to the left, about 1.5 feet, where she was 20 years old, she could then use that information to go, wait a minute, maybe I watched my mother and father go through their divorce later in life when I was 20. And again, I'm going to stick with that breathing example, because usually spirit is very very precise with the examples I give, that usually it's for somebody who's listening. So if you were 20 years old and your mother and father had a divorce later in life, and you felt this awareness in your aura at that point, this is going to help you again through that understanding, go ahead with your breath and your intention to draw your light home, to bring it back centripetal so that it can reorder itself. So right now, I want you guys to do that. I want you to go ahead and think about your intention. Your original question that you had for today, or something new that's come up. And in the chat, I want you to go ahead and write where, if you were to close your eyes, where is your awareness drawn? Your awareness may be drawn somewhere in the aura, or it may be drawn even somewhere inside the body, more present day and time. The closer to midline is the closest to now. And then let's go ahead and have Hannah share what you're getting. Hannah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So for me, it's in the back left, lower, but very close to the center line. It feels like a couple meters away.
And so with that map, so the left side would be mother, right? And it's close to your midline, you said? So it's like close to your body?
But like lower, yeah.
And see if you can ask your consciousness what age that would be. If it's closer to the age you are now, it's typically.
Yeah, like 30s.
Your 30s. And are you able to share your intention with us?
I just was putting in to heal whichever parts of my light body needed to have light in them.
Okay, and can you understand what is being shown to you at 30 around that? Is that your tailbone, you said?
Yeah, I think it's showing me 35. Is sort of a cycle that is similar to right now, but things are different. When I think back of where I was at 35, sort of not ready. Things were not quite ready, but then now things have shifted, so it seems like healing something from that time period.
Good. And can you just ask within, what do you need to know about that so that you come a greater understanding?
That it was appropriate, that there's nothing there to regret or feel sad about, that was all perfectly appropriate, and to have gone through that.
Good. And go ahead and take a deep breath in, hand to heart, and just allow that energy to come back home. And everybody do the same, just hand to heart, gather any understanding. And even if it fully isn't understood yet, the request, the invitation has been presented. So there is a level of you that is gathering that understanding. Good. And imagine, the imagination is the key to enlightenment. And so imagine those light particles coming home, back to your torus, back to midline, and torusing out, recreating anything in the field that needed filled out. Good.
I'm remembering in the advanced geobiology schools, they measure how far from their midline the center of your aura has been deflected. Like, are you beside yourself? And so that process of bringing the center line of your electrical aura back aligned with the center line of your body is very major issue, very appropriate.
Yes. And anybody who's standing beside themselves, like Dan just said, just bring yourself back to middle. I can feel that in a few of you. Just bring it back to middle. It's okay to be here in this now moment. Good. We're arriving to a new place of love, light remembered. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay. Thank you, Hannah. How does that feel?
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Okay, I lost you for a minute. I'll bring you back. If you can hear me, go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah, I did. I think I have a delay there. So the next slide says forgiveness, compassion, understanding during retrieval of essence and during Theraphi session.
Good. And let's go to the next one. That's super important. And so we can do the 5-second in and out breath as well during our sessions while we're imagining forgiveness compassion. Go to the next slide. And gratitude. So we would want to see it already done. We would see our essence fill out the light body. We'd want to see anything, we can call it a rewrite or a rescripting if we feel like we need to see ourselves forgiving ourselves or our parents for having that late divorce in life.
Yeah, so the question is, so is this aura you speak of like the torus that forms around the heart spiral? Yes, the heart is the major center of gravity, and then it radiates upward and downward, and it grows as you become more shareable.
Good. Okay, so Hannah, if you could go ahead and stand up, and everybody, if you're open to it, stand up, and I want you to learn a simple technique called body sway muscle testing so that you can ask your consciousness yes and no questions and double check your intuition to ensoul so that you actually bring the light body down through the soles of the feet and start walking as this huge being that you are. And for some of you who can't get answers, this is going to help you get those clear yeses and nos. So typically, you're going to say, my consciousness, show me a yes. My consciousness, show me a yes. And typically, your body should go forward. Good. And my consciousness, show me a no. And typically, your body should go backwards. And let me know, Hannah, if you were able to go backward.
Yep.
Good. And then my consciousness, show me a maybe. Typically, it's going to go to a side. And hers, it went to the right. Good job. And so then with this technique, what you're going to want to make sure you do is say, my consciousness, am I complete with this technique? And what did you get, Hannah?
I got a yes.
Yes. So if you're using this to get answers, you would address consciousness, like I said, and you would ask a good question that could actually give you a yes or a no. So you're not going to put an or in there, like row, row, row your boat. You need to make sure you actually say something that can give you a yes or a no. And then end it with, am I complete? Because you wouldn't want to leave this type of session with yourself without getting complete. But even though Hannah got it that she's complete, Hannah, can you go ahead and ask a consciousness question to give us an example of how it would give you a yes or a no?
Oh, like something, just to give an
Like
example.
is there another Akashic record you need to investigate? Something like that.
Is there another one? Like someone else's? Or what do you mean by that?
Yours.
By another one?
Is there another Akashic record for you to investigate today?
Oh, compared to the one I was looking at earlier.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting no. There's not.
Good. Okay, and let's go ahead and thank you, Hannah, for being the example of, if there's any questions about that, let me know, but I'm going to keep on going.
JJSN said, being a human pendulum, nice.
Yes. And so the pendulum was one of the first tools that I used 30 years ago, and it too stopped working. And I had to start to develop all the other senses. And this was definitely a tool that helped with that development and double checking my new senses coming online. So I highly suggest it, as well as because it's going to help you in soul, literally get you down through the soles of your feet. Okay, sessions on self using intuition, muscle testing, or automatic button on the app I'm going to show you next. So go to the next slide. So after doing years of leading groups on this ascension work and having them do little checklists on piece of paper of who, what, when, where, why, we went ahead around probably 6 years ago now, a group of ascension crew who were here taking soul school. We went ahead and created an app together to make it simplified, because we had gathered 23 different charts that people could actually get some reading from of what was connected to their Akashic record. So I just want to go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah, Liz asks, I just asked my heart out loud. Then you can feel it. It will answer. That's good. And then Liz said, what determines the forward or backwards movement? Well, it's just like some people use their fingers to dowse or a pendulum. But if your whole body center and you learn to relax and use that regularly with discipline, that can be an excellent way to access your intuition, and just until you need it.
Just
So
until you
next.
need it. Yeah. And if it ever needs help, you can face north, anybody who needs help with that. And make sure you're hydrated. Okay. So what we're really asking is who, what, when, where, why. We've pretty much said that. Let's go to the next slide. We did example. Go ahead. Next slide. Good. And this is just some of the charts you can literally muscle test through 23 different charts. It starts with consciousness. Then you would check off, let's say you got yes to inner child. And then it would move you to the when, then it would move you to the who chart. And you could literally keep track of a large packet of information as you go through 23 different charts. And on the left there, you can see who, when, what energy, where in the body is being connected, what meridian is connected, different types of whys are in this app. Planets are in here, essential oils, the light body is on here, animals, temple parts, different types of vehicles, elements, your superpowers are in this chart, developing all your abilities, telekinesis, etc., teleporting. Go to the next one. And we have an automatic button. After years of training people with it, we got a yes from higher intelligence that we were allowed to make an automatic button about 4 years ago. And so here's an automatic readout that I did for our class today. I said, highest and best for the group now watching in Theraphi use. And it said the consciousness that was leading was other. Now that could mean that other, like there wasn't the right aspect of consciousness listed in this app, or it could mean that the other has the information for you, like a spirit guide or a guardian angel, because we don't have those types of things in the lead consciousness chart. I was really guided by spirit to have people learn about their own consciousness, not talking to relatives, although you can, not talking to spirit guides and ascended masters, but this is really this app is for you to develop your own strong, super concentrated essence, talking to your consciousness. So this could mean, is this about spirit guides? So I'm getting a yes to spirit guides, since that's the second time or third time I've said it. Usually it's very right on point. And then what I did just there is I asked my consciousness, okay, who's connected God? When? Past this life? What is the energy or the emotion? Hopefulness? What energy is expanding? Teacher. And it goes into what body part? Lung. I did speak of lung earlier, like 4 times already as an example, breathing. On my 48-hour tour with this group, being down and out, reoccupying the longitudinal ray, I was trapped underneath the chalice wells and couldn't breathe. So that feels, for me, personally connected. The meridian is large intestines. That has a lot to do with what we're needing to let go of. Y is identification. Planet is Neptune. I think that's really active right now, being in Pisces season, the unknown being dug up. It says the essential oil that we could utilize is myrrh, the deep mother healing, the DNA 10, animal white crane, which is usually about high council, temple grid. So we would look at the grid of our home, possibly what needs to be looked at. In my journey through the last 48 hours, it was looking at Glastonbury, England grid work that had gone on there. Vehicles was to shed the vehicle, could mean like get rid of your vehicle or getting a new vehicle. It also could mean a shed. Maybe you do some teleportation in your shed outside your house. Elements, earth, the superpower coming online with today's Akashic reading for our group is time travel. And essentially, truly, we have to remember that we do time travel whenever we tell a story about the past. We are indeed, or the future, we are indeed time traveling. What's the event that's happening is acceleration, geometry, and angle, crystals, agate, cleansing the liver. The nature is a hurricane. We just had that, another toroidal spin happen during the last 48 hours here. Hannah can attest to that. We definitely made a huge wind here with this last one. And the solution is a new path or a new profession. So some of those details, I, again, ran right through them. This is something you could pick, and you could let 3 of them pop out to you. 3 could help you go ahead and do a deeper dive in your meditation to go ahead and find that greater understanding. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And that gives you a readout that you can, a clearing statement you can do. It gives you a heart-mind coherence meditation. And let's go to the next slide. This is something we have everybody saying on the Theraphi these days. I am the entropy of love. I am, I am, I am. And next slide. It should almost be done. Here's Dan Winter's new book. I highly suggest it, Playing Fire. Super powerful. And I'm probably going to go into something about it on the next slide. This is just a great imagery, again, of showing that as we ensoul, our energy super concentrates and moves from location almost to seemingly non-location plane of existence stance. And as you see on the bottom picture from his book, Playing Fire, where that transverse EMF wave literally starts to pick up and be able to go through the spine and squeeze out the pineal gland, we get that longitudinal, arriving into our longitudinal EMF array stance.
And the longitudinal component then bounces at the nodes of a larger and larger array because of perfect compression there. So the more intense the stillness at the nodes of that array, the larger the array that can be connected.
And that's so important right there. So that stillness is what we're after. And the nodals is what we're after. And this understanding is what's going to give that to us. Okay, and let's go ahead and shift over to Hanna.
And Hanna just drew a nice picture of the still point in the caduceus right there.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is just to draw it. Actually, I have a question along those lines that might be helpful for everyone to hear. Elasa was just now mentioning the transverse waves moving up the spine and coming out the pineal gland as longitudinal. That sounds like a great example to me. Now, my question for you, Dan, is would that actually be happening at every energy center in our body, that the transverse waves are collapsing down to plunk and coming out the squirt gun as longitudinal waves in every energy center in the body, and that we want that to be optimal? Would you say that that's accurate, or would it be more better to just focus on somewhere like the pineal in particular?
Well, what comes to mind is what the Kundalini experience feels like. You know, it feels like there's lightning coming up your tailbone, and then eventually it feels like it goes through your heart, and then it feels like your head is in a vice-like grip of a giant stillness, which means you've been pinned into a very large array. So that's the connectivity of the compression point, and that it connects you to a very big array. And then you have this intense feeling that you don't want to move because you'll lose connection with the array. But on the other hand, as the Kundalini goes to a climax and it becomes like lightning at a certain point, you don't want to get burnt. So your intuition tells you when you've had enough bliss, actually. Like
Okay.
inhabiting the center of a lightning bolt. It's wonderful bliss, but eventually it will stress the mineral to water bonds. And so you want to approach bliss gently and not all at once.
So that seems like the main key channel to focus on. And then but as a result, say, of that activation and achieving Kundalini activation with the pineal gland and this supreme state of bliss, like you're talking about, and not wanting to move because it's just so wonderful, and then knowing when to come out of it, would that inherently be activating all those other energy centers in the body so that the longitudinal waves can move in and out? I'm just sort of thinking out loud here of I'm just wondering if maybe that's one of the results then, is sort of embedding in the larger array, and as a result, perhaps all the energy centers in the body can then tap in to those longitudinal wave frequencies. Anyway, just kind of a thought. Yeah.
Well, just in my experience, yes, the pineal gland, burnt like a red hot coal, and eventually, if you stay in the bliss too much and don't process, personally, this is when I was rather young, but I literally cried for a month or two, almost continuously every morning. I didn't even know why I was crying, but obviously I was processing every unshareable wave of how many years of whatever. So you don't want to try to do that all at once.
And I can
That's a
attest
really
to doing it
important
all
point.
at once the past 48 hours. So
Wow.
I was in that vice grip and lightning was going through my spinal column. And I was told by conscious, you are indeed occupying a longitudinal array right now, and you are digesting all that needs to be digested to come up to the next plane of existence. And I was then guided several times as a tornado was going on outside yesterday to go. They wanted me to make sure I go lay on the ground and put my hands on the ground so that I was moving the energy into the magnetic field or in the grid of the earth and get out of the house. They were like, you need to get out of the house so that this can go all the way through. And so that's also very important, remembering that, and that's on one of our slides, but I see our time's getting kind of small here. So I just wanted to say, please make sure you do ground after all this work, and keep going, Hannah.
We just got the thumbs up, by the way. I don't know if you all saw that. Well, gosh, where to start? If I wanted to just kind of briefly go over my connection with the Theraphi and this technology, it was probably about 6 or 8 months ago, I started to learn about Dan Winter's work, and I had been shifting my clothing to be natural because of understanding how the energy moves, and something like the synthetics can block the energy. So that started to profoundly shift my life, just applying that one principle with the clothing. And then the more I learned, really learning how the Theraphi works, I feel like is the major gift. And I did, buy a Theraphi to work with, and I did the demonstration at GSIC. But the reason why I did the demonstration to people was I really just wanted people to know that it exists, that it's here, that it's available. For me personally, understanding these principles of implosion, if we can see it with our mind's eye, what is going on when someone receives a session, then we start to tap into these fundamental principles that are governing and creating this whole reality around us. And for me, that is the bigger gift here. So I just want everyone to know, watching it, you're just fine, whether you have access to the technology to use it or not. It's okay, just learning these principles, because then you can basically tap in with those of us who have tried it. Our consciousness, we're all connected to each other through this frequencies, through the technology, through people like Dan and everyone who's working to create these things. It's like we're a group of consciousness that we want to write a story, and we want the story to include really amazing preventative wellness and powerful healing. We're saying, okay, I want to write that story. Who are the other consciousness that are involved in that? And how can I be a part of it? So by wanting to be a part of this, really, and that's how I arrived at finding the Theraphi. I had, over a decade ago, was in the medical device industry, but I saw everything going on, and I said, okay, I'm all about natural wellness. If I'm going to be a part of something like this, it has to be healing things before they get too bad, or before someone even knows there's a problem. So I had traveled around the world doing that, in the conventional system. And about 3 years ago, everything shifted for a lot of people. 3.5 years ago, I started a journey of learning all about what are the preventative technologies available. And my friend and I, we went on several expeditions around the country, meeting the inventors, trying different devices, hearing these terms get used, and lasers and crystal powders and all these different things. And one inventor I found, his advice was that to always look at the consciousness of the people that are inventing the devices to make the decision. And that to me really rang true. And when I found Dan and the whole team and started to understand what this was all about, the Planck fire formula, and I'm thinking, how does no one know that this is here? How is it so rare that anyone knows that this discovery's been made? But over time, because it still baffles me sometimes. However, I feel that people really do need to be of a certain level of consciousness to be able, they have to be searching for truth and understanding this reality and wanting to work with nature to heal and wanting to work with our bodies intuitively to heal. I feel like it draws us all together. And if a person is really wanting truth and they're really wanting to find preventative solutions, they will find this group of people. And it felt, it just felt like I had trekked far and wide and found some little cave on the side of a cliff somewhere where people are gathered around this magical device. And I said, hey, what are you all doing in there? And they're like, oh, come see. But you have to be willing to go on the journey. Because my experience, every time I made a decision like, okay, I'm going to buy a Theraphi and okay, I'm going to send the down payment, I felt my life shifting. Really, I felt the timeline. Okay, I'm on a different timeline now, making that choice. It's been very profound for me. But again, you don't need to buy the Theraphi necessarily to have that happen. Caring about this technology, wanting to tap in. At the GSIC event, I had a lot of people were disappointed because it got filled up like within a couple hours. The sign-up sheet was completely full. So I told people, well, there's no more sessions left, but I told them if they wanted to sit in the booth, we had chairs kind of lined up, then they could sit and they could receive the benefit and they could go into a meditative state of mind and connect to the therapist because it was right there when people were getting a session. And a number of people did that. And I know that they were definitely getting very substantial benefits. One of my friends that I met there, he was sitting there for a couple of days. And then finally at the end, he got his session. But he said after the first day, he was like walking so fast back to his hotel room. He couldn't believe how fast he was walking. And that was him just sitting at the booth, for a couple hours, but not getting a direct session. He actually told me after he got back from the event, his sense of smell was dramatically improved. He could smell his coffee like never before. I have my friend Joe, who's a professional athlete. He's gotten to know a lot of us at the event. He's a big friend of the GSIC event. He got to try it, and he says that when he is doing something like meditation or whatnot, he will, when his eyes are closed, the sensation of light will improve. There's a greater sense of light. And for him, he phrased it that's how he knows he's been charged up. So when I asked for his experience after using it, that was the example that he gave. He could tell it was charging him up. But one thing I want to mention, my experience and what I've witnessed with others getting a therapy, getting ready to be set up in Maine and working with my mom through that process. And I've been telling her the whole time, like, yep, this is how it is, because everything needs to be very precise. And that's on the one hand, a logical sense. When I got it, I said, okay, this is a big, big purchase. I need to know exactly how to do this perfect. So there's the logical side, but over time, I've realized it is really the nature of this technology. It's the essence of it that you really have to embody, is this precision, this implosion, this Planck level precision, that every detail in the room will receive your full intention. And it's like you're forced to go down to Planck level implosion when you look at everything and every little aspect of the setup. That's been my experience. I'm watching other people, because it's like a ceremony. This device is, every time it's turned on or every time it's even just placed somewhere, it's affecting the whole longitudinal array of the entire planet and beyond. So someone switching that switch on for the first time is shifting the whole grid. And I've experienced it, this type of technology. It literally, I had a longitudinal generator on the land here that got moved, and I can see that the ley line is still there. The cat goes there. So when we're working with Theraphi and other longitudinal wave technology, we are literally massaging the earth energy lines underneath the ground and around us, and we're shifting them to where they will stay intact even if the device is removed. I'm witnessing it with my own beingness. I'm experiencing it here. So this, I was encouraging my mom to slow down, and I watched her process as she's getting certain aspects of the room right and certain aspects of the setup. I watched her switch to embrace it and to shift to being present and patient. And I feel like anyone who's gotten one has gone through that. Another quick story about my mom, because she coming to Florida, she did get to try it here, which was how she made the decision that she wanted to be involved in the technology. I've been explaining certain things. So whether you're involved in the technology or you're just here learning about this content, I think a lot of you out there have had this similar kind of thing happening. We notice, wow, my telepathy seems to be improved. I feel like I'm thinking of someone right before they call or whatever might have happened. So my mom, she had tried it multiple times in Florida, and she had made the decision to buy a Theraphi, and she was up in Maine, and she had a thought. She loves bookstores, and she was seeing her friend in a bookstore who owned the bookstore, and said, have you considered moving to Waterville, one of the towns I grew up in? I think that your bookstore might do really well there. And the woman blushed red, and she said, I'm planning to do that, but nobody knows. I haven't even told my landlord yet. And so then my mom said, and I think you might want to go in this area near these people. And the woman said, that's exactly where I was planning to go. So she's telling me this, and I said, yeah, Mom, because we are all lucid dreaming, we're astral traveling every night, everyone around the globe, and this is where we talk to each other, we have interactions, we know everything going on because we talk to each other when we're sleeping. And I was telling her that she can expect more of it, to be aware of things going on without anyone telling her. Another experience, she was just walking on the road, and there was a guy that coming with a snowmobile, and he slowed way down, and he gave her space, and she was just remarking at how polite he was. And I told her that her aura is getting more centripetal. She's having a greater effect on the energy around her, and we can all expect, those of us who are just learning about this, that people can sense our consciousness greater, because we genuinely are more in touch with the whole array. So for me, that's one of the consequences of just learning about how this works. Then we see it in our mind's eye. I was lucid dreaming the other night of being the wave. I was seeing myself as, the transverse wave spiral vortexing and becoming longitudinal. I mean, yeah, I was experiencing it. So anyway, so that's sort of kind of my experience in the nutshell. But GSIC at the event there, and I'm looking forward to doing more events. Actually, there's one in June that I'd like to do here in Florida. But people are like moths around the flame. When you turn that on, it's such a beautiful work of art. People really want to know this is here. And for me, it's such a joy to get to share it with people. I'm super excited. And all the other things coming and yet to come and coming now, like piezo fire and the plank fire, the plasma fire and piezo fire. I'm looking forward to getting some of those, and again, hope to do this show in June to start to kind of bridge the gap between the conventional realms of medicine, since that's sort of my background. I feel like they're going to be like kids in the candy shop if they see something like this. But anyway, so that was sort of what I wanted to add. Elasa, your presentation, as always, just so captivating, and love seeing the two of you go together. Yeah.
That was great, Elasa. And Hannah, your enthusiasm, dedication, and Hannah is a very, very quick thinker. She has a very fast mind, and she's highly intuitive, and she radiates enthusiasm infectiously, and it's so wonderful.
Aw, you're so sweet. I
Thank you.
thank you so much. For me, I do feel like a kid again, truly. I've said it many times, but I'm thinking we get to
Yeah.
give ourselves the education we wish we had as kids.
Yes.
So much.
The joy of learning. Yeah. You
And
agree with that, Elasa?
Yes.
Elasa has so much pure intention, and you're a very psychokinetic being, Elasa. I must say,
Yes.
I'm a bit in awe, actually.
For sure.
But anyway, we've kind of done our time thing here. Tufan, do you have any things that should be mentioned or major questions we missed or any comments or something? Are we doing okay?
We have two questions, one from the YouTube live stream. Kasahun asks, what is the difference between understanding and understanding in wordplay? Is it self-awareness, Elasa? Actually, this was something that I was also curious about. Was that a derivation from Jordan Maxwell's definition of understanding?
It came a while back about being under a dome and under all of these four corner paperworks and getting ourselves in true inner standing. So when we understand, we are on authority. But when we're understanding, we're under someone else's authority. And it's about us coming back into a new alignment. Does that answer your question?
Nicely said, I think.
Thank you.
And that was the last scene of the dream last night with you all, as we were piercing our head out from the dome. We were making our way out from, it was a Circus Soleil, and we were making our way out of the dome.
Out of the bubble.
So we are in our inner standing. We're coming into, yes.
Great.
New coordinates.
Thank you.
Yay.
One question from Kat. What do I need to heal myself so that I can more fully help others to heal?
You cut out for me too, Fun. Maybe you could say it again once
Sure, I'll repeat it. And what do I need to heal myself so that I can more fully help others to heal?
Tufan, can you say that again, because it cut out and now I see you moving.
Sure. Kat asks, what do I need to heal myself from, probably, so that I can more fully help others to heal?
And that's something, Kat, you're going to have to ask and do the who, what, when, where, why. Ask for first when. When is the conception point you need to know about? Was it this lifetime? And you can use the body sway muscle testing. If you get a yes, then you can go through ages. Was I 0 to 10 years old? If you get a yes, then you would, whittle that out. Was I 1, 2, 3? And then once you get a few of those markers of when and then maybe who, that's going to help you give a little bit of insight, and you can get still within yourself and ask with those markers more clarity of what do you need to heal yourself. And this is the journey. You're going to find that, like an onion, peeling back the onion, the layers, all your answers are waiting for you to ask. These questions are waiting for your consciousness to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. The inner dialogue will evolve with discipline.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
There was a question on the bottom here too, Fawn. Dan, I'd love for you to elaborate on Planck as the perfect pixel connection. You mentioned maybe coherently analogous to the LCD panels we stare at, like sails fueled by our soul breath. Nicely put. Well, the idea was that the Planck is the universal key signature of every wave in physics. So it is literally the pixel of all of physics. And it's no coincidence that Planck's is the same in all directions for a billion light years, because that is where the wave is made shareable, literally where the transverse becomes longitudinal, the physics of how you make gravity, that implosion. And so that becomes the universal language of the universal longitudinal array. So when you get down to that level of resolution, communication is a perfectly shareable wave.
Yes.
Tufan, did we miss any other good questions, or are we pretty good?
We are all good.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we've a little over time here, but ladies, you guys were wonderful, as we knew you would be. What pure intention. And Elasa, your work with kids, I must say, we need to work more with you. We need, guides for the lucid dreaming. And when the people want to have group plasma meditations with either Theraphi, Plasmafy, there's lots of ways, but you could be the steering wheel for many things, Elasa. So I think we need you.
I would love to help. I would love to join in on a team. And I really feel we have bliss, received bliss right now. It just like shifted. I don't know if a few of other you can feel it, but I just feel us literally entering the longitudinal ray right now. So if we could complete with hands to heart again and mirror breath, inhale 5 seconds, exhale 5 seconds, 3 times, and see your wish fulfilled. Smile. See all wishes fulfilled, all beings smiling.
Ah, beautiful inner smile.
All beings knowing that they are souls eternally awakening to this dream.
Oh, perfect.
Ah,
On
exactly.
that note, there couldn't be a better ending, guys. Blessings to everybody.
Blessings.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Blessings,
Thank you.
everyone.
It was wonderful. See you next week. Thank
See
you.
all.
Thank you. That was great. Wonderful.
Thank you, Ralph.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
bye,
you.
Dane.
Bye, Ralph.
Bye, everybody.
Such fun. Such a great family. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.